with all the darkness in the world, I thought that I'd make a video to kind of sum up a lot of what I've been feeling and thinking the past few months. I won't say it's been easy. It hasn't been easy for any of us, between COVID and having to leave our normal lives. I'm devastated that I didn't get to experience the big parts of 8th grade with our 8th graders. My sister didn't get her 8th grade dance. She didn't get our 8th grade walk. I didn't get to share that with her. Sure, they didn't have to have milestones, which is a plus, but this is the point in the year where we get to see the kids as they are, who they really are, because testing is done and they're looser and they're freer and they're getting ready to go to high school. So either they fuck up a lot or I have to admit that this class has been one of the most mature classes, and by that I mean not that they are mature, but that they've matured from 7th to 8th grade. You always have those that need a little additional help, sweet babies that they are. But it was hard to not get to see them for these last 2 months of their middle school year, and kind of usher them in to high school with them. I miss their sweet faces. And I know that since Andrea's in that same grade, I'm always going to see them, but it's a different way of seeing them, and I'm going to miss them. I miss their smiling faces and even their issues sometimes, just being able to be there for them to rely on you. It's just been difficult. And then, of course, with the things that have been happening for the past month, starting with George Floyd and then Breonna Taylor, actually starting with Ahmaud Arbery, but it's just like it's constant and not ending. And like I had to take my break last week, mental health, take a break from social media, and by that I mean don't exhaust myself trying to put the word out there of all the injustices that are happening. And then I'm back, and I'm going to keep flooding my story with information and resources and whatever I need to in order to either annoy people to the point where they have to unfollow me, or get them talking about it too. Because if you're not doing anything with your life right now, live your life, be happy, do your own thing. I'm not saying that this has to be your life now, but you can't ignore it if it's in your face. And that's where that's where my thought process is going. I'm going to keep shoving it in your face, all the injustices, all the things that are happening, so you can't ignore it. And I'm not saying don't be happy. Be happy, please. If you can enjoy life, go and do it. Because not everything has to be about driving your life to this. But at the same time, ever since Ahmaud, I've been thinking, my life revolves around these kids. And we literally have a kid who is an 8th grader, now he's a freshman, who is 6 feet tall, lanky, black boy who is tall as hell. You would never think that he's a child, but he is. And the fact that somebody's gonna look at him and see him as a threat, that's terrifying to me. And then thinking about how Tamir Rice would have been graduating this year, these things are hard to imagine, you know? And it's hard to take. And like, I've seen the injustices done to Hispanics, but I've seen the injustices done to Black people too. When I lived in Decatur, and I don't mean white Decatur, I mean ghetto Decatur, it was something else. The schooling, like, I went from a school that was in the poor section to a magnet school, which was a completely different world. And living in one, the fact that I had to take 2 buses in order to go to a magnet school, it was, you know, I didn't get it at that moment, but now as an adult, it just makes sense in a negative way. So I'm gonna keep fighting for these injustices, and I'm gonna be all up in their faces in my stories. And I am so sorry for all those people who don't want to hear about it, but maybe you need to hear about it. Anyway, a year ago, give or take a couple days, I had started being in the darkest place I had ever been in my life. I'm not sure what triggered it. Maybe it was the potential of being left behind by coworkers, by a dream that I've had for a very long time, and it shattered in front of me, and I knew that it was impossible. It was a very low moment in my life. I mean, trust me, I've had low moments. Now going back and going back into my writing of when, like, that I did when I was younger, I see those dark moments, and because it's reflected in the writing, but like, this was dark. Like, I wanted justifications of why I was feeling that way, and I was willing to do anything to get them. I literally wrote, I will bleed for the answers that I need. And I tried to do that, to get answers, to get help. This was the first time since I knew that I was depressed that I sought help, because it had gotten to the point where I was lashing out, and irrationally lashing out to my brothers and sisters, and it was hurting them, and it was hurting me emotionally and physically, and it didn't seem to get better. When work started, it was bad, and then I went through this really crazy manic episode where it was very high energy, like I wanted to get things done. I was like bam, 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 and then I crashed again. But let me tell you, summer of 2019, I didn't hit rock bottom. I like stumbled upon rock bottom and didn't know it was there. It changed my perspective about a lot of things. I knew that it wasn't something that I was proud of, so I got help. I got my medicine. I am dealing with things in a different light. I couldn't be creative. I lost my creativity. It was, if you've known me for a while, you know that I'm constantly writing. Like, I would do work and write at the same time. In class, I would sit with my notes on one side and my writing right underneath it, and I would be writing and listening to instructions. I couldn't put words on a page because everything was too dark. All my thoughts. Every time I sat down to write, it was dark. I'm not saying that now there's light in it, because once you have a thread of writing, you go with it. But it's nicer to write. It's easier to write. I guess I gave myself more of a chance. And I don't know, it's a different world. But there are things that still affect me. The fact that I'm almost 25 years old, and like I've said in my other videos, there are things that I wanted to experience in 2020 that unfortunately the year kind of decided that we're not doing that. Getting out, hanging out with people, that was one of the things I wanted to do. Give a chance to dating or seeing people or whatever that looked like, which is made harder when there is a stay-at-home shelter in place, whatever the hell it's called, because you can't really see people, and so your mind goes back to the only security blanket it has, and it's not a security blanket when you've spent so long wasting your time on a dream that will never happen. And that dream from last summer that was crushed was one of those dreams that I gave up on, because I was just like, this was my last chance at this dream, and now I know that they're saying something up there saying that it's not gonna happen, so I gave up on it. And this dream, unfortunately, this one of what my heart wants, is something that apparently I can't give up on. Not because I don't want to, I've definitely tried, but because I need a replacement before it happens. And I'm hoping that someone will come along and help me with that. Now, here's the other thing I've been thinking. So shout out to, I've had this thought for a very long time, and I haven't ever worded it out loud because it wasn't the time, I guess. I just think it's funny how when I was in high school, there was someone, a young man, who would hopefully jokingly say that my place was, a woman's place was in the kitchen. And I find myself in the kitchen more often than I'd like nowadays. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love cooking. I've found out that I love cooking. But every time I'm cooking, I think of that expression, that saying that he said. And part of me hopes and like really, really thinks that he was joking. But the other part of me really, really is irritated with the fact that I am in a kitchen cooking for others. And it pisses me off. So I know he's not gonna watch this video, but if he does, like, I hope you know, in my head, I still want to prove you wrong. So there's that. But going back to all the things that I wanted to do in 2020 that were ruined by COVID and now racism, hanging out with friends. But the problem is with that is that there is so much in our culture that is based on imbibing alcohol. And don't get me wrong, like, I drink alcohol, but like, why? And I'd go out with friends if they wanted to go to a bar or a brewery or whatever, but why is our culture so saturated in drinking? just don't get it. I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I just don't get it because I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, my thoughts are always wandering now. I'm writing again. I've got 72 pages of the first part of my series. So I have a lot of work to do to get to the length of what a novel should be. Here's the thing. So in order to write this part of the story, I needed reference pictures because a lot of it takes place at a school that is like my sweet Panther Pride, Park Street. So we went to Park Street today hoping that it wasn't demolished yet. And part of it is gone. And it broke my heart to see the rubble. And like, I kind of get why we're tearing down a 70-year-old building, but like the other part of me is just like the gentrification is disgusting. And I say that as someone who has lived on Franklin before the gentrification and after the gentrification. Like the fact that we are rebuilding our school. I mean, don't get me wrong, the middle school is probably going to be next, but that is an ancient building, and the ghost of the school might not be happy about it, but I will be whenever that happens, because that seriously needs an upgrade. But it is what it is. So yeah, Park Street being torn down was very hard-hitting for me today, especially since I've been reminiscing on my Park Street days lately with the writing and everything. Yeah, it's been tough. And the hardest part is that I want to reach out to people and check on them and make sure that they're okay, like I did at the beginning of this pandemic. But I don't know how it's going to be received now that we're kind of out of it. I mean, I don't want it to seem like it's coming from a place of like I'm nosy or I'm desperate or anything like that. I really do care, which is why I reach out. But it's that little naggy little voice in my head that says don't do it because you're being annoying, and I can't help myself. I care too much about certain people and certain things, and I just want to make sure everyone's okay, which is why I never take care of myself, because I'm always thinking about other people, making sure that they're okay without measuring how much of their weight is weighing onto me, which is why I don't want to weigh it onto them, because then when I realize, I'm like, well, I shouldn't be that weight onto other people, and that's very complicated. I don't know why I just said I didn't follow that train of thought. Anyway, I'm hoping that justice gets served, though we all know that it's going to be a little difficult with the way things are right now. COVID's a mess, and regardless of how much they're opening up the country, it's not going away anytime soon. So please be mindful and careful, and please keep your mental health on the forefront of your life, because being stuck at home, being bombarded with the injustices of the world, it's gonna weigh heavily. And I've been in a dark place, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. So, my dear friends, my enemies, my whatever you want to be, my colleagues, my compatriots, my acquaintances, just take care of yourselves. And I will be here if you need me, or if you need someone to check in on you. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm here. I know that I don't take that advice when other people give it to me, but I'm always willing to give it to others. So please be blessed. Be safe. Please be safe. Take care of yourselves. And happy Pride.